Nebraska's transfer portal class is shaping out to be one of the best in all of college football. However, there is one glaring problem. The Huskers have yet to receive a single commitment on the offensive line. So in today's video, I'm going to give you a big update around that situation. What's going on with Fa'ili? Are there any brand new targets on our radar? Should we be concerned? And everything else you need to know. So really quick, hit that like button, it helps me out. And also, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan and you're unsubscribed, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Hey, we've been blowing up on the channel recently, posting Nebraska transfer portal updates you're going to get nowhere else in breaking news coverage. So please hit that subscribe button and join the best family here on Husker YouTube. But without further ado, let's get into it. Talking about Nebraska and the transfer portal. The Huskers have built one of the better classes in all of the country. However, there's one big problem. Nebraska doesn't have a single offensive line commit. Every single offensive lineman the Huskers have offered in the portal has already committed elsewhere except for one. Let's get things started talking about the number 2 offensive tackle in all of the transfer portal. This is Fa'ili coming out of Washington State. Now, I told you guys a couple days ago in my update around him that he's going to be committing very, very soon. It's down to Nebraska in Michigan. Now, it still looks like he's going to be making an announcement in the next couple days, but I do have an unfortunate update. There is a brand new school in the mix here between Nebraska, Michigan, and now Wake Forest. We know that Washington State's head coach went over to Wake Forest a couple of weeks ago. He's their new head man. And for that reason, he has a tight-knit connection with Fa'ili. He's trying to continue that bond at a new school. So Wake Forest has emerged in this process. I would not be surprised if he ends up making the trip over there this weekend to take a visit. So watch out for Wake Forest. Now, there hasn't been a bunch of updates around this situation. There hasn't been a bunch of news. That's just because, with an offensive lineman, they keep it pretty low profile. They're not tweeting out things a bunch, talking about the schools they like and the visits that are going on. But just know Nebraska, Michigan, Wake Forest, the longer this process goes on, the more I dislike the Huskers odds, to be completely honest with you. I told you guys a couple of days ago, Sharon Moore is building a good connection with Fa'ili. He's getting personally involved in this recruiting process to get this guy in Ann Arbor. While Wake Forest is involved, it just feels like Nebraska is kind of slipping away here. They got to continue to remain in contact with this guy every single day. I know that Raiola is getting personally involved. I know that our NIL is stepping up and being aggressive here. You got to land this guy because he's a stud right tackle. He can play left tackle as well. One of the better players in all of college football. Should be going to the NFL draft, but is going to go back to college for one more year. So that's the update around Fa'ili. Things aren't looking phenomenal there. Nebraska obviously still in the process. I'd say maybe 30-40% chance now that Wake Forest in here. I'm a little bit concerned about that. But if we don't land Fa'ili, which is a very real possibility, there are some big concerns for this O-line class. We're not really going after anybody else, okay? And I told you guys about a week ago when we were last talking about this offensive line, I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet because I was going to wait and see, okay, are we going to get any transfer visitors this weekend? We don't have a single offensive line transfer visiting on Saturday and Sunday as of recording this video. That is a massive problem. Now, there's only one other offensive lineman who I've confirmed that Nebraska is going after that's in the portal, and this is Zen Michalski. I know for a fact that the Huskers are going after him out of Ohio State. Started a couple games for the Buckeyes this year. The thing is with Zen is that 1 year of eligibility remaining, that's fine. He's still with the Buckeyes through their playoff run, so he's not taking visits. He's not even looking at other schools right now. Although he's in the portal, he's staying with the team, so he's not really going to commit anywhere for a couple weeks. So it really doesn't help us that he's still with the Buckeyes, but I know for a fact Nebraska's recruiting him. It's just we're not going to have any news around that until they get eliminated or win a national championship. So that's the only guy that Nebraska, I know for a fact, is going after besides, of course, Fa'ili. But again, this is a really big problem. We don't have any visitors lined up. We don't have any offers lined up. All of the guys who we offered and already had on visits committed elsewhere. You look at this offensive line next year. This is a problem. The Huskers had a really middle-of-the-pack offensive line this year. Lost us that Iowa game, arguably. You have some problems here. Again, you lost a couple seniors. You have Teddy Prohaska, at that right tackle spot, who's never stayed healthy in his entire career. He's had 4 season-ending injuries at this point. You have Turner Corcoran at that left guard spot, who's really been a disappointment going into his 6th season. You have a lot of younger players there. And then you look at the depth for Nebraska on this offensive line. Unproven guy after unproven guy. While those guys, were 4-star recruits, Grant Bricks, Preston Tamoa, to name just a couple, they're unproven. They have never played. We have a huge offensive line issue. We're looking at, this offensive line as it stands is going to be one of the worst in the Big Ten. That's just the way it is, right? It's not the worst in the world, but in a Big Ten where, offensive line play is critical, it's going to stack up very, very poorly against some of these top tier teams. And we just got to add on to the equation that we have a quarterback who's a 5-star in Dylan Raiola going into his second year. You need to protect him. You need to have a good offensive line. It boggles the mind how Nebraska hasn't been more aggressive here. So yes, I'm starting to hit that panic button a little bit. The fact that we haven't got any offensive linemen in, on visits over the past couple weeks, it just concerns me. It makes me feel like we aren't being aggressive there. We don't want 2 or 3. It makes me feel like Donovan Raiola only wants 1 or 2 offensive line transfers, and that isn't enough. We need about 3 or 4, in my opinion, to make this a good offensive line room, and we need 3 or 4 guys to compete for a starting spot. That's what we need. Again, we did not have a great offensive line last year, and we lost some of our best guys, and Ben Scott, and Micah Mazuka, even Bryce Benhart. We lost all of our best offensive linemen. How do you think our O-line is going to be next year? So I feel like we're a little complacent right now. And I think more than anything, Raiola, our offensive line coach, is expecting some of these young players to step up and be really good. We just can't bank on that. In modern day college football, you can't bank on unproductive players, potentially starting or you're in your 2 deep. You got to have proven players until those guys kind of work their way up. So it's a huge problem. And you look at the offensive line, market right now, pretty much all of the top guys are already committed. Pretty much all of them. That, again, is a huge, huge problem for the Huskers. So it's something that I'm going to monitor very, very closely. In my opinion, we need about 3 or 4 offensive linemen. You got to protect your young quarterback. We'll see what happens here. And one thing I also want to mention is that you look at the positions that Nebraska is being most aggressive at. Wide receiver, defensive line, defensive backs. You know what all of those positions have in common? They have a new positional coach. Dakel Shorts, Terry Bratton, and Addison Williams. You know who doesn't have a new offensive line coach or new positional coach? That is at that offensive line spot in Donovan Raiola. So it makes me feel like these new positional coaches, they want to bring in their guys. They want to bring in new players, new transfers. They kind of want to reshape the room. I feel like Donovan Raiola is being a little complacent with this room. He's saying, I already know who's in here. I don't really want to change anybody. It's very interesting, and I don't love that. I don't love that, especially with the 105 cap limit. Like, you can finally cut some players. Terry Bratton is going to cut some guys on the defensive line. You might like some of those guys on the defensive line. He might say, hey, I didn't recruit you. I don't want you here. Same thing, John Butler might say that, our new defensive coordinator. He didn't recruit anybody. He might say, hey, we're going to cut you. We didn't recruit you. You might be an okay player, but you're just not on the long-term plans. So that might happen at the D-line in the DB spot. That's why Ring's so aggressive. There might be some names that you like who get cut. I don't think it's going to happen on the offensive line because we just haven't been going after it extensively. My opinion, what I think is going to happen here is that Donovan Raiola is just naturally expecting some guys to step up that are younger, and it's just you can't really bank on that in modern day college football. You got to bring in experience, and right now as it stands, it's just not a good offensive line unit. So that's why I think it's going on right here. I'll keep you guys updated. If we don't land Falili Famoa, we're in a really bad spot. We're in a really bad spot. But I'm sure they're going to go after some more guys. Zy Chrysler is a guy who I talked about in a recent video from Illinois. I wouldn't be shocked if they went after. But in my opinion, they need 3 or 4. I just don't know if they get that done. I'd imagine they get 1 or 2 at this point. It's really, really unfortunate. But again, I'll keep an eye on that, let you guys know what's happening. I also really want to quickly talk about the running backs in this video. We need a running back transfer. We desperately need a running back transfer. As it stands, we have 5 scholarship running backs. Emmett Johnson. You have Quinn Ives, who has 6 carries in 2 years. You have Mekhi Nelson, who was here for 1 year. And you have 2 true freshmen in Connor Booth and Jamarion Parker. It is a bad running back room. It's objectively a bad running back room. One of the worst in the Big Ten. Yes, Emmett Johnson's a good player. And yes, Emmett Johnson should be our running back 1. But after that, you just have nobody. You have nobody in that running back room. You went from having a pretty deep room last year with 4, potential starting running backs and Ramir, Emmett, Dante, and Gabe to having 1 of those guys. And you really don't have anybody left. So in my opinion, Nebraska needs a big, bruising power running back. They've yet to offer a single one in this portal process. We're looking at the offensive line being a big weakness and the running back room being a big weakness. And once again, 2 positional groups that don't have brand new positional coaches. Is it any shocker that they don't want to, get some new names there? I don't know. It's just an interesting trend here. So I'm a little bit concerned about the running back room. We need a big bruising running back to complement Emmett. Emmett's good enough to start. Emmett's not good enough to get 30, 40 carries a game and carry the running back room on his back. He's good. He's not great. He's not top 10. You need to get another name in there. You got to get somebody with proven experience. They've yet to offer a single one. There are some red flags. It's a good, transfer portal class. I'm not saying it isn't. But you just need to get some more guys here, and they haven't really done that at that running back room, and certainly not on that offensive line. All right, guys, that's my video talking about this situation in the offensive line. I'm going to keep my eye on it. What's going on there? We need to get some names there because at the end of the day, we got to have a productive offense next year. We got to upgrade that O-line. We got to upgrade this running back core. We haven't done it. We'll see. We have still, the entire month of January in front of us, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. All right, guys, I would definitely want to hear what you have to say down below. Let me know your comments in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far on the video, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for the latest and greatest talking about Nebraska recruiting. I totally stole that from somebody else. I just thought of it at the top of my head. All right, guys, let me know in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far on the video, hit the like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go be great. Go Rhule. See you in the next one.